Welcome back to another yap session. If I'm yapping, they're snapping. Okay, this week was the Grammys, and so many people were so upset because their favorite artist did not win albums, and we have to go to the conversation about versus something being subjectively good versus objectively good, and that critiquing is not a perfect science. There are so many different outside factors that come into play about how you might receive a certain project, right? For a perfect example of that is I might listen to an album today and kind of like it, but not really care for it that much, and then later on in life, I might revisit it after going through certain experiences, and suddenly I hear the music more clearer. Suddenly I understand the weight of the emotions in which the person was singing this music. You know what I'm saying? Suddenly I think it's a masterpiece when before I thought it was just okay. Someone who does critical analysis of albums and music all the time, while again it's not a perfect science, it's more of an art form. Here are some metrics that I try and use and carry on with me, like kind of like a checklist that I go through just to try and have something to measure each album against accordingly. The very first thing is the obvious, which I like to refer to as a trifecta, and it's the three things. It's going to be vocals, it is going to be lyrics, and it is going to be production, right? So what that means is that for an album, for me to check it off on the list, an album just needs to have two of the three, and then I'm okay with it, right? So for example, an Adele album is not really impressive production-wise. Like the production on it isn't that great, but she is such a great song lyric writer, and also her vocals are so amazing that it carries it. And it's like, all right, checklist. Quote the great Sam Elliott in one of the greatest movies ever made, Bradley Cooper's A Star Is Born. Bradley Cooper, I will avenge you for that Oscar loss, where he said, music is essentially 12 notes between any octave. 12 notes and the octave repeats. It's the same story being told over and over for forever. And all any artist can do is show the world how they view those 12 notes. Making music since the beginning of time, there is not a subject on earth that you want to write a song about that someone has not already written a song about, right? Like those 12 notes in that octave have already been used before. So it's about how are you telling me this story in a new way? There's a limited amount of human emotions, and how are you making me feel those emotions in a different way? That brings us to number two, which is how unique is this album to this specific artist? Do I think there's any other artist on earth who could have made this album? How much of themselves did this artist bring to this album? A good example is like regional sounds. We're talking about Lotto, Sugar Honey Iced Tea, Normani's Dopamine, Megan Thee Stallion's Megan, right? Like that are very regional. They are a reflection of their childhood, of their upbringing, right? Then we have Beyonce's Cowboy Carter, which came from a negative experience that she had at the CMAs. You know, there's no other artist who could have made that album because no other artist went through that specific experience that she went through. It's going to be about timing. What does this album say about where we are in the world right now? And that doesn't particularly mean it has to be political, but it's about having a conversation about why is this album necessary right now? How is it relevant right now? A good example would be during the 2008 housing crash, right? And Black Eyed Peas making I Got a Feeling, and Pitbull making all of this party music, and Kesha making songs like We're Gonna Die Young. Everyone is depressed, everyone is miserable, no one has a reason to live, so these artists are making these insane house party EDM music meant to be escapism, right? It was music meant to tell people to stop worrying about their problems for just 1 second, for these 3 minutes, and just party, right? It was a music that was very reflective of the times. It was a music that was reactionary to the times and where we were politically. It was very relevant to the times in which it was released. And just like that, I am out of time. If you want me to do part two and give you the rest of my things, let me know and I'll do it.